Hi, Lisa and gang. Boo Walker here, coming at you from Valencia, Spain. I believe you guys are in Ohio, and it's probably in the afternoon, evening sometime, and everyone has glasses of wine. I'm so happy. Hopefully, there's might be some Red Mountain in your glasses. Anyway, I'm so honored that you're reading the Red Mountain Chronicles. And I'm really bummed that Lisa and I didn't get to chat. I have a feeling we would have gotten along gloriously. She sounds kind of like your guy's Joan, which is cool. She sent over some questions. I glanced through them for a second. I'm not prepared, but I thought it'd just be fun to look over and see what I could answer. And feel free to shoot me more questions always. I'm honored that Red Mountain is circulating and still hanging in there after all these years. I had so much fun writing it, and a fourth is definitely going to come at some point. The characters are floating around my head, but there is a prequel. I hope you've read that. Anyway, let's see. Lisa was drawn to my character description of Joan. Where did that come from? Am I a yogi? Am I interested in healing modalities? I am a constant work in progress and on a journey of all sorts. God, where do I even begin? So, it comes down to my wife, really. 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago now, I was on the rooftop of my building in Seattle where I lived at the time, looking at the Space Needle, drinking some wine with some friends, and my wife walked by and I was just completely mesmerized, and I chased her down for 2 weeks. She kept saying no, and I just was relentless. She eventually agreed to have coffee, and I proposed to her a week after that. So 3 weeks after that night on the rooftop. And the reason is, of course, I was infatuated with her and in love with her for, just for countless reasons. But she is very much an intuitive person. She's very in tune with the universe. She's she had a rough childhood and has worked hard to climb out of that and become the person she is today. It was just, in a way, my teacher and spiritual leader, and she's a yogi and she had a Buddhist psychotherapist practice in downtown Seattle that was hugely successful. And when we got married, we ended up leaving Seattle and she closed it, and she's not opened her practice again, because I think between helping me with my characters and helping me, she's got plenty on her hands. But so certainly any of the spiritual stuff a lot of it comes from what I've learned from my wife. And Joan, really, when I was writing this story, I was living in Eastern Washington State in the vineyards. That's where I learned how to grow grapes and make wine, and how I became so knowledgeable. I ended up running global sales for a winery out of Washington Hedges. And I was encountering all these incredibly interesting characters, and I basically threw them in a blender, and just new characters came up, fictional characters, and Otis and Brooks and Margot and Amelia and Jake and everybody. They had little characteristics that might have come from real life and from other parts of my life, but there was something missing. There was a thread missing. And I needed a way to tie them together. When in The Walking Dead, for example, where you have multiple characters, they all are working to survive, basically. Well, on Red Mountain, yes, they're working to elevate Red Mountain and make it something better than it is, and to protect Red Mountain, of course. But I wanted a deeper thread, and this character Joan just kept popping up, and I thought, well, what a perfect way to touch everybody's lives and make this a little bit deeper. And these were all journeys that I was going through myself. I really try to address the things going inside my own struggles and obstacles and revelations while I'm writing. So she was a manifestation of the teacher in my head, basically. And yeah, she was, I had no idea how much she would impact people. And I hear all the time, via email, that she's, that those what she's done and what the book has done has changed a lot of people. So that's pretty miraculous. In Ia Yogi, I did vinyasa flow a lot in Seattle and then in Charleston and St. Pete, and we've moved to Valencia, and I haven't found a studio, and they're closed anyway. But I've just signed up for Gaia in the past few weeks, and now I just roll my mat out in my room and practice, and it's so good to be back on the mat. So yes, I'm a yogi, and I just can't get enough of it, and I'm a better person when I'm in a regular routine with yoga. How has that impacted my creativity? Well, it feeds the energy source. It's the same. I'm a better person, and I'm a better writer. I'm a better creator. My imagination speaks to me more when I am in tune. And really, if I can get on my mat before I write, it just helps me be present, because I think, heck, our whole journey in life is being present, right? When I'm writing, I need to be super present. There's like two mindsets. I can either be half present and kind of checked out and just writing not very well and I'm not seeing the characters, or full deep immersion, presence, and that's when I can see the salt on the countertop from the shaker that tilted over, and I can see one of the oranges is rotten in the fruit bowl, and that's the level of presence that I look for. And whenever I'm struggling writing, it typically means that I'm not being present in my real life. And so I end up working on it in that way. You love Margot. She's smart, witty, talented, vivacious, and lonely. Indeed. Does she represent someone in your life? What is the process of developing a female character and all the emotions that go with her? I always like to take on a new challenge, and with every book. And with Margot, I was really afraid of writing from a female point of view. And that's not a good place to write from, to be afraid. So I just wanted to completely let go. And Sidney Sheldon wrote from a female perspective a lot and created a lot of great female characters. So I've read a lot of him in the past, and really more than anything, I just tried to get any judgment out of my head and let myself become Margot. And in a way, I am the male Margot in a lot of ways. And what was really fun about writing Red Mountain, that's harder and harder as I have more and more readers and, have more publishers and editors watching me, is I was really able to let go and have fun. And I wasn't thinking in my head, what are female readers going to think when I write Margot in a bathtub murdering someone, or when she's facilitating an affair with Jake. And it was completely like, I'm just going to have fun and let this stuff come out and just, in a way, climb into the skin of a female as best I can. I'm never going to understand what it's like to be a woman, but I can at least pretend to. And so that's me pretending as best as I can. And I think somewhere along the line in writing females, I have learned a thing or two, maybe. Maybe I'm a little bit easier for my wife to put up with. And I do enjoy it. It's a great challenge to step outside of the manly role. And it helps me write my male characters too, because I see men in a different light. So where did Margot come from? She came from deep within my soul. She's the zany, wild woman that we all want to meet, who's just a complete train wreck but wants to be better. And boy, she's just fun. And writing the prequel, A Marriage Well Done, was just tons of fun. I could feel the character Amelia Foster and the pain she was struggling with, but there was an underlying tone that she has some psychic abilities, or maybe an old soul. Yeah, that seems to really come out in the third one, Red Mountain Burning. And Lisa, I feel like you said you haven't read that yet, so I'm very surprised. I got to go back and read the first two books. I'm very surprised and impressed that you picked that up in the earlier books. but I need to play with that in book 4, don't I? She is a character that was another, of course, challenge. Let's write from a female perspective, from an 18-year-old. Not easy. And as the series went on, I got to know her more and more, and I was just reminded, maybe it was just when I was reminded what I was like when I was 17, 18, 19, just fighting for like a foothold in the world, you know? What was the process of creating this beautiful story? Well, so I mentioned, and where did my knowledge of the wine business come from? So I used to play music back in the old days. I played banjo, and on September 11th, 9/11, 2001, I started having some hand problems while we were in the studio. I was a banjo player, and it pretty much started my journey to rediscover myself. I'd majored in music. My whole life was going to be dedicated to playing the banjo. And all of a sudden it was pretty much over, and I left Nashville and I left my band. I had this career-ending hand disorder, and I was really just I didn't know what to do. And I had to climb out of a pretty deep, dark hole, and I started trading stocks and did that for a while and was making a lot of money and losing my soul just 1 week at a time. I got really into computers, and it was really fun for a while, but I missed my creative piece. So it kind of in the heart of a midlife crisis after a yucky breakup, I decided, well, first I applied to the Peace Corps, and then I also considered the Army Reserves. I mean, this is midlife crisis at its greatest. But then the wine bug bit me. And I started really studying wine, and I realized that I wanted to make wine and start a vineyard. So I moved out west to Washington and ran into this family called the Hedges. They quickly became friends and taught me everything I know about wine and about the old world. And they really poured gasoline on the flame of my love of Europe and wine. And so I ended up working for them in the fields, and then working for them in the cellar, and then eventually ran global sales for them. So traveled the world for a few years, meeting with distributors in Asia and Europe and Canada and pretty much everywhere. And of course, just learned so much every day, just having dinner with people around the world, talking wine. And I guess, I mentioned earlier, as far as where the story came from, it was just this idea of when I was on Red Mountain. Even when I'd come back from my trips, the people on Red Mountain are so interesting, because you don't live in the middle of nowhere unless you don't get bored easily, and you have a strong reason, like your belief in grapevines. And that was what it was, is there were so many people that were dedicated to the craft of growing grapes and making good wine. Some people were running from something, some people were looking for something. But every character you met, it was like, oh, I could write a book. I could write 2 books. I could write 3 books on this. I could write a lifetime of books. And so that's when I was writing thrillers at the time, and I told my agent, who we since parted, she didn't like the idea. I just told her I had something bigger to say than writing thrillers, and I wanted to explore this idea. And so that's where it came from. Each character has some pain, trauma, and is trying to grow personally. How has your personal experience impacted the character's development? Well, I think I touched on that. I really, what do you do with each character? You find a way to connect with them. Margot, I can connect with in so many ways. Otis too. I mean, when you want something so badly that you'll do anything for it. And he wants to not only create a legacy, but create a incredible wine region. So all those personal journeys are things that I'm either constantly going through and will the rest of my life, or have gone through in the past, or people that I've seen go through it. The character Otis develops trauma of not being able to taste or smell. Where did that come from? And having his passion taken away. Well, I guess a good book is written when an author tears their characters down and knocks them down to the ground. And so what do you do to a winemaker? You take away his sense of taste and smell, and that's where that came from. And of course, I was able to relate because I mentioned my banjo hand. It was like debilitating. How do you climb out of that? So that's where that came from. The character of Brooks is very complicated, but you grow to love him for his passion, fire, integrity, and loyalty. Indeed, he's the guy that he keeps growing and he keeps getting his heart broken. And I was just thinking about him the other day and thinking, God, will he ever meet anyone, or is he just bound to be heartbroken over and over? And he just came from this idea of this broken guy who wants normalcy. And then, as we all know who have a bit of normalcy in our life, that doesn't always fix the problems, does it? Let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. Well, I so appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully you made it through this and it gets there okay. And I hope you guys have a great night. As you may know, I'm now working with a new publisher called Lake Union, and I wrote a book called An Unfinished Story after Red Mountain. And then after that, a book coming out August 3rd is called The Singing Trees, and it's about a young woman named Annalisa Mancuso, who is she is a painter, an Italian-American painter who's 17 in 1969 in Maine, growing up in this Italian family. Her parents are passed away. She lives with her grandmother, Nona, and she wants to be a painter more than anything in the world, like a world-class painter. She is a great painter when the story starts, and she wants to find her voice. But the problem is, well, there's a million problems getting in the way from the times, 1969, 1970, from her Italian family, from love, all kinds of things are going to prevent her from finding her voice. And I'm so excited to share it. Would do anything to fast forward to August 3rd because I think it's the best thing I've ever written. And then I guess at some point I got to start thinking about another Red Mountain, but I've got a couple other stories in mind before that. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful night, and thank you so much for reading. Bye.